Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. قد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته ومنتهى علمه وجميع ما شاء وخلق وذرع وبرع. عالم الغيب وشهادة الرحمن الرحيم الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. أما بعد، فيقول الله تعالى الكريم: وأطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تنازعوا فتفشلوا وتذهب ريحكم واصبروا إن الله مع الصابرين. وأطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تنازعوا فتفشلوا وتذهب ريحكم واصبروا إن الله مع الصابرين. صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, we are grateful and thankful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to reach another Shahr Ramadan, another month of Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, I don't know about you, but I'm extremely excited. I'm extremely excited and I'm extremely motivated. Because I know, we should know, that the month of Ramadan is not vacation time. The month of Ramadan is the time to excel. It's the time in which we capitalize on the barakah, the blessings and the spiritual energy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in this month. Many beautiful things have happened during the month of Ramadan. The Battle of Badr, the first time that Islam, the truth, al-haq, stood face to face, toe to toe, sword to sword against falsehood. They were outnumbered 313 to 1,001. This was fought during the month of Ramadan. The month of Ramadan has always been a time of complete help and assistance, complete barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We forget it wasn't that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had just blessed the Muslims during that day. Yes, He did, but Allah assisted the Muslims during the Battle of Badr. There were angels helping out the Muslims during the Battle of Badr. And this again was fought during the month of Ramadan. Now the amazing thing about this battle, at least in my opinion, is what Allah revealed as a result of the Battle of Badr. Most of Surah Anfal, Surah number 8, was revealed as a consequence of the Battle of Badr. If you know your seerah, and you know what happened during the Battle of Badr, and you know what happened a year later at the Battle of Uhud, when you read the ayat, the verses that were revealed for Badr, if you're not careful, you will think that those verses were revealed for Uhud. And one example is the verse that we mentioned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ, and obey Allah, وَرَسُولَهُ, and His messenger, وَلَا تَنَازَعُوا, and do not argue with one another. Do not argue with one another. These verses, once again, were revealed after the Battle of Badr. When you reflect on what happened at the Battle of Badr, there's no argumentation. There was no disobedience. Why would Allah reveal that? If you know what happened at the Battle of Uhud a year later, there was argumentation. There was some disobedience. Alhamdulillah, Allah forgave them. You know the archers. They were told not to leave. They were told directly by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were at the base of a mountain, the Mount Uhud. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed and ordered the archers, guard our back. Make sure no one comes around the mountain to attack us from the back. It doesn't matter what happens. Even if you see birds eating off the heads of our dead bodies, do not leave until I instruct you. And we know the story. The Muslims had the upper hand. They were pushing the enemy back. And then archers begin to argue with one another. Hey, the battle is over. Let's get some of this ghanima. Let's get some of these spoils of war. And they left, and this is how they were able to come around and hurt the Muslims from the back. But this is Uhud. This is not Badr. But yet and still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, obey Allah, obey His messenger, and do not argue with one another. And then He says, فَتَفْشَلُوا. This fact is called the fact sababiyya. It's a causative fact. Something's going to happen to you if you disobey these orders. And these are general principles in Islam. Obey Allah and obey His messenger. Do not argue. Do not argue. But tafshalu, you will lose. You will lose. You will become a failure. Even the root word fashala is one of the terms that's used to describe a miscarriage. A woman gets pregnant, but she doesn't carry to her full term. It's also a word that's used to mean incompetence. You start to do something, but you're not able to finish it. فَتَفْشَلُوا وَتَذْهَبَ رِيحُكُمْ. And your spirit, your wind, will leave you. Your energy, your desire, your motivation. تَذْهَبَ رِيحُكُمْ. Your spirit will leave you. And you all know this is true by your own experience. You come around a group of brothers or a group of sisters, and they start arguing, and they start getting abusive. You're like, man, why am I even here? I'm not coming back anymore. This is your feeling in that situation is a manifestation of what Allah just said. وَتَذْهَبَ رِيحُكُمْ. And your spirit will leave you. But Allah says, وَاسْبِرُوا. Be patient. إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ. And Allah is with those who are patient. Again, Allah revealed this after the battle of Badr. There's beautiful wisdom in this. You ever watch a basketball game and it's a sports town with no basketball team. But you ever watch a basketball game and someone that's kind of like caught up on himself, he scores a point, the crowd cheers, and he's looking at the crowd, oh, thank you, oh, yes. Meanwhile, the game is still going on. The one he's supposed to be guarding is halfway down the court scoring. While he's sticking around like, oh, and the coach is like, hey, what you doing? Go down. Matter of fact, sit on the bench. You lost focus. It's almost like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing that with this victory with the Battle of Badr. You had a victory. Yes, Allah favored you, even though you were outnumbered. And all of the Muslims couldn't even participate. It was a last-minute call. If you know the story of the Battle of Badr, you know half of the Ansar couldn't go. It was like, let's go, we need to go now. And the Sahaba even had a choice. The Ansar had a choice. They didn't have to fight. It was supposed to be a raid on the caravan. Everything. They were completely unprepared. But Allah gave them victory. You can see how in this circumstance, like, you know, hey, let's celebrate. Let's party. No, don't celebrate. Let's learn some lessons from this. And as we mentioned, at the Battle of Uhud, the whole battle, from the planning of it to the end of it, some people were excited to fight. They wanted to go fight because they didn't fight in the Battle of Badr. They felt like they missed something. I wasn't there. They took counsel. Hey, should we fight the battle? Should we face this enemy that's coming to attack us? Should we fight from inside of Medina, or should we go outside of Medina? Those who were anxious, man, let's go out. Why are we going to sit here waiting for them to come to us? It was the Prophet's desire to fight in Medina. But in this case, he took the advice of his companion, spoke the loudest, and he took their advice. That anxiousness. And some of them were reminded afterwards the lessons that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to them after the Battle of Badr. And this is normal because we forget as human beings. We forget. All of us were children at one time. Our parents told us, do not hang around that kid. Stay away from her. Stay away from him. Don't go there. I want you to be this when you grow up. No, I want to do this. I need you to do this, take this profession in school. No, I want to do liberal arts. I want you to do this, I want you to do that. And you get caught up and you listen to your friends. And then when you get older and Allah gives you a little bit more wisdom, you find yourself doing exactly what your parents told you 10, 20 years later. And you say, hey, I should have been doing this a long time ago. Why did, I don't know what my parents told me. Sometimes we need reminders. The Sahaba were the same way. So we shouldn't have a negative opinion or attitude with regards to them regarding this situation. We mentioned just to remind us that the Battle of Badr, the month of Ramadan, was a cause of victory for the believers. And it's always been like this. Walhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen wa afdalu salatu wa atamu taslim ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa radiyallahu ta'ala an asatid tabi'in wa ulama al-amilin wa a'immat al-arbat al-mujtahidin wa muqallidin illa yawmiddin amma ba'd. The month of Ramadan is a month of victory, a month of conquest. In the same way that Allah blessed the early Muslims, the Sahaba, with assistance by the angels to fight and fend off the external enemies. Allah uses the barakah in this month to help all of us fight off and fend off our internal enemies, our internal demons. And He gives us tools to do so. The Prophet ﷺ is reported to always be charitable. But it is reported that he was most charitable during this month, the month of Ramadan. The month of Ramadan. Said he was more charitable than wind blowing leaves from a tree. And we have to be careful not to let the shayateen trick us out of our good deeds, out of our blessings. Because I'm sure you all read the hadith that, the devils are chained up. And if you're on social media, they make memes, they show the devil with horns and hitchhiking gear and like he's going to jail. What this means is that the powerful devils, the powerful evil influences are subdued during this month. It doesn't mean that every single shaitan is locked up. It doesn't mean that every single influence is muted. Because we know from the Quran that you have shayateen devils, min al-ins, from human beings, wal jinn, and from jinn. And every human shaitan is not locked up. So they're still here. And so many times we have evil influences even during the month of Ramadan. It's just not so loud and the influence is just not so pronounced as it is during the rest of the year. So we cannot let the devils trick us out of our good deeds. Think about it. Anytime you try to get close to Allah, there's always some human devil trying to turn you the other way. Say, hey, I want to go memorize the Quran. Why you want to go memorize the Quran? You're not even going to know what it's saying. Well, the Prophet ﷺ said there's a reward in every letter that you struggle with. Every letter. Alif Lam Mim. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Alif Harf Lam Harf Mim Harf. There's a reward in every one. So even if I don't understand, there's still a reward in it for me. Well, if you go memorize the Quran, so what good is it going to do if you're not going to practice it? You know, that's the human shayateen talking to you. It's Ramadan. You know, I want to try to keep my spirituality up. I'm going to pray Salatul Taraweeh every night in the masjid. Why are you going to the masjid? You just go in there to be seen in bed. You just go in there so people can see that you're a righteous Muslim. You know, Taraweeh is valid at home. Right? That's the shayateen from human beings. Don't let shaitan trick you out of your blessing. Come to the masjid for Taraweeh. I think most of the masjids in the city have Taraweeh. Come to the masjids for Taraweeh. And give sadaqah, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was more charitable during this month than he was at any other month. And alhamdulillah, we're having a fundraiser here. Not tomorrow, Saturday, the Saturday after that, the 26th. Come out to the fundraiser and give like sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave. Put the reminder in your phone. Write it down so you can have the benefit of being charitable like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and getting the rewards of it. I recommend that you make a list of charitable causes and make your intention to give a little bit to each of these causes every single day. Because a lot of times we look for the one big charity, the one big good deed. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the best of deeds are those which are consistent. Even if they're little. Just like the month of Ramadan is a month of conquest and blessings and spiritual, there's also big lessons to learn during this month. We mentioned the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, do not argue. And this is one lesson that we haven't seen the quite right get yet. Most of us look for the night of power, Laylatul Qadr, during the last 10 nights, specifically the odd nights of the month of Ramadan. But a lot of times we don't ponder on the fact or the reason why we have to search for it. Why is it hidden? Why don't we know when it is? The reason why, if you remember, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was on his way to inform the Muslims when the night of power would be. And as he was coming out, the believers were arguing with one another. And Allah took that knowledge from him. So he said, well, search for it between the last 10 days. That's a lesson that we should remember as the months of Ramadan are winding on. Say, oh, I want to do i'tikaf, I want to look for the night of power, I'm going to do extra night prayers. No, it's Allah's decree. But Allah put a sabab there to teach us a lesson. He put a reason there to teach us a lesson. That we shouldn't argue. And we always find reasons to argue. Alhamdulillah. Ramadan Mubarak. Why you say Ramadan Mubarak? It ain't Ramadan yet. Well, we started fasting. Well, we didn't start fasting. Why did y'all start fasting? Or what method do you go to? And you start arguing. Well, alhamdulillah, there's room for most of the opinions, which cause us to fast on different days. But even if you don't agree with it, you shouldn't argue about it. And many times, most of us argue, and we don't have any understanding or any knowledge about what we're arguing about. Can you imagine me arguing with someone else? I'm not a doctor at all. And me arguing about the internal workings of the body, the circulatory system, and I'm arguing, I'm cursing somebody out, and a doctor comes and says, maybe I got something to contribute to this conversation. I say, shut up, I should be talking. Right? You look crazy. But this is that argumentation. And what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? once again, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ وَلَا تَنَازَعُوا فَتَفْشَلُوا وَتَذْهَبَ رِيحُكُمْ وَاصْبِرُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ. Obey Allah and His Messenger, do not argue with one another. The end result of that will be loss and the loss of your spirit. You know, the conquest of Mecca took place during the month of Ramadan as well. Likewise, Futihat al-Andalus, the opening of Spain and Portugal, took place in 711 in the month of Ramadan. In the month of Ramadan comes, I always think about Spain. Because you see the reality of what we're talking about come to life. And the thing about it is, we have to be careful about the decisions that we make now, because you don't know the ripple effect of these decisions and these argumentations. We like to bask in our history, see Allah allowed the Muslims to enter Spain in 711, to Tariq ibn Ziyad entered there, and then after Musa ibn Hussein came and established Islam there. But Islam got established, and it was established for a long time there. This place is close to 800 years. But we never think about, why is it not like that right now? Why is Spain not Andalus right now? Why do you have Spain and Portugal right now and not Andalus? Why? Because of disobedience in this one order that we mentioned. وَلَا تَنَازَعُوا, do not argue. See, Spain had a period of time on Andalus that were recorded in history as Muluka Tawa'if, the period of petty kings. You would have a village or a cluster of villages together with an Amir or a leader, and he's Muslim obviously, and he's arguing with the leader from another village, and they're power tripping. They're Muslim. They're all Muslim, right? You would figure that would mean something, right? No, it don't mean nothing. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ, only the believers are brothers, but a lot of times we get so content and nonchalant with our Islam that the brotherhood of Islam doesn't mean anything. I have a little bit of power, I want to hold on to it by any means necessary, even if it means fighting another Muslim. And so you have periods of time in Al-Andalus when this happened. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. We all heard this hadith, but do we really practice it? That's something we need to ponder on. Because just like Islam was established in Al-Andalus, Spain, by means of brotherhood, by means of unification of the communities and the tribes, it was taken out of there by means of argumentation and division. They took back Al-Andalus the same way the Muslims got it. Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand came down from the north. And how did they take back Al-Andalus piece by piece? They found two Muslim amirs arguing with one another and sided with one of them. Hey, we'll give you financial support and military support against our common enemy. And the foolish amir would take the help and support. He would deal with his Muslim rival, fight, kill other Muslims. Kind of like now, Muslims fighting Muslims. Internationally. And then when they were finished with the war, they would fight against the one who they had aligned themselves with. And they worked from the north to the south, just like that. So finally they got to Granada. And inside of Granada, there was argumentation. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of history, because a lot of times result of history. A lot of us are in this country right now because of the history that I'm talking about. It's where Alhambra is. Beautiful land. The Amir of Granada had 2 wives. Uh-oh. He had a Christian wife, Isabella, not the same person who was queen. And he had a Muslim wife, Aisha. He made it his intention, and he expressed it, that he was going to leave as an inheritance the emirate, the leadership, to his son from Isabella, the Christian wife. His wife, Aisha, heard about it. And Aisha inspired her son to fight against his own father for authority. This is in Granada. He fought his own father over authority and chased his father out of Granada. His uncle took over for a period of time. And then he finally got control. And when they finally got everything back in order, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella was basically knocking at the gates. Y'all finished fighting each other yet? Y'all ready to fight us? What's up? They had a big shura meeting inside of the city. And they tried to fight. Some people fought, but they agreed on a truce, a sulh. Part of the agreement was that Abdullah, as they said, Bo Abdul, he would go into exile in Morocco. And as he went into exile in Morocco, him and his family, he turned around and looked at Granada, at the city, and started crying. And his mother Aisha famously said, "Do not cry over this city. Do not cry over this like a little woman when you didn't fight to defend it like a man." And they called that spot in that time period where that happened, Al Ultimo Suspiro del Moro, the last cry of the Moor, the last sigh of the Moor. This happened in 1492. 1492 is a big year for us here. We don't understand what's going on. This is a result of Muslims arguing with one another. Follow me here. The Christians that came down from Castile, King Ferdinand, Queen Isabella, they had a big celebration. Guess who was there? Christopher Columbus. Literally, this is not a myth. This is he was there. He was trying to get money and has been trying to get money for a long time to finance his trip to India. The money that he got from Queen Isabella to finance his trip came from the Muslims after they was conquered. And we all know the history. America was discovered, even though there's a whole bunch of people here already from all over the world. America was discovered in 1492. Not only that, now that the Iberian Peninsula is not controlled by Muslims, you have another problem. The Portuguese, because there was no Portugal, Portugal comes from an Arabic word, the land of citrus fruits. The Portuguese made an incursion into North Africa and compromised the Moroccans. So much so that the Emirate of Songhai was invaded in 1591, 100 years later. Portuguese with Muslims from Morocco in the army fighting another emirate, a Muslim entity. If you know anything about history, this sent West Africa into chaos. This is when you get the beginning of the slave trade. We're running out of time. I don't need to go connect the dots. You should be able to connect the dots. Many of us are here. My ancestors, the descendants of those who were kidnapped and enslaved in this country, are here because of that. Many of your countries are destroyed economically because of war in other places and other things. And you're forced to come here, not because you don't love your country, because you want to make a living. You want to get an education. That's why you're here. But a lot of times we're short-sighted and we don't see the reality that many of us are here because our forefathers were too short-sighted and they argued with one another. And they fought against one another. They didn't see their blood as being sacred. So we have the luxury of history. We can learn from it and not repeat those mistakes. We can learn from this and not repeat those mistakes. May Allah have us Ramadan and have us not argue with one another. May Allah bind the hearts of the believers. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا رب العالمين.